welcome to FasTrack Talk. My name is Zach, and this is the place where we talk here on Spin Move iRacing Network all things NASCAR. Welcome to the Daytona 500 preview show. I typically like to do FasTrack Talk as a recorded thing, but I figured after all the racing that happened today with the ARCA race, that really was just watching cars slowly bebop across the racetrack at a snail's pace under yellow, and then watching the Xfinity race, which was actually a really good race. Just unfortunate that it too, like the second duel, ended with a simple button press of a yellow flag, ended under yellow. I figured that now would be a good time to chime in for a last-minute Daytona 500 preview show. And today, how we're going to go through this is that I'm going to take a look here at the starting lineup, walk you through who is starting where in the Daytona 500, and briefly give you a expectation marker for these drivers this season as they roll off for the first race of this season for NASCAR. I'm really excited to get this going with you, to set the stage for all these drivers that made the show, and to talk to you about expectations for the 2025 Cup season. So let's hit the road as we talk through the Daytona 500. On row number one, you will have the pole winner for the Daytona 500 in a brand new ride, Chase Briscoe, driving the number 19 Bass Pro Shops Toyota. Side him will be Austin Cindric in the number 2 Discount Tire Ford for Team Penske. This is a pretty intriguing front row. Penske always seems to wind up doing well at these plate races, but I was very impressed with Chase Briscoe's pole run as he was able to get out towards the end. I think he was the last car to go out and qualify in the first group stage for Daytona 500 qualifying, which means his car had least amount of time to cool down, and then ultimately he whacked the field again coming out. That 19 car is on rails when all by himself. I'm interested to see what the 19 car looks like in race trim for the 500. Ultimately, expectations here for the front row going into this season, I think for Chase Briscoe coming in from Stewart-Haas, just won a race, right? You have the 19 who failed to win a race 2 out of the last 3 years. That team is clamoring for more. Briscoe's burst out of the gate with, I thought, was a strong run at the Madhouse for the Clash, and then turning out a pole for the 500. First time Toyota's ever won a pole at Daytona. Briscoe is searching right now. He's like a shark in the water. You can smell blood. I think Briscoe's poised to have a good year this year. My expectation for him, win a race, make the playoffs, restore that number 19 back to its contender hopes and dreams. For Austin Cindric, I think, look, I don't have a very grand opinion about the driver of the number 2 machine. I think he is someone that, to be quite honest, has underachieved in the historic 2 for Penske, and he only shows up at these plate races. He's pretty much a moot point anywhere else. So my expectation for Austin Cindric, win a plate race. That's kind of your expectation for him every year. He's racing right now because of who he is, because of his name. So you got to back that up in a Penske ride with winning a plate race. This could be it for him at Daytona. He's done it before. Let's see if he can do it again. Rolling off row 2 for the Daytona 500 are your dual winners. Bubba Wallace in the 2311 McDonald's Toyota, followed by Eric Jones. I know, crazy. I called Eric Jones the race winner because, well, I think that Eric Jones won that dual race, but he didn't. He finished second behind Cindric in what was a very controversial dual win for the driver of the 2 machine, but still strong showing from that 43 here at Daytona. Expectations for these 2 drivers going into this year, I think that Bubba Wallace needs to win a race before the playoffs. He's got this knack of when all the pressure is off, he races just fine, but when the pressure is on him, he crumbles. Now, Bubba Wallace is a really good plate driver. He's a really good super speedway racer. I could definitely see him winning Daytona. But if it's not here, it's got to be somewhere else before the playoffs begin to lock in that 23. The difference between him and Tyler Reddick now is growing year by year. It's Wallace's eighth year in the Cup Series, and I really feel like this needs to be the year the 23 punches his ticket into the playoffs with a win. Erik Jones, there's not a lot of expectations for Legacy Motor Club as Jimmy Johnson is trying to build this team from the ground up. He's not funneling any notes or any data from Joe Gibbs. He wants to build it himself, which means this program's going to struggle. But we know Erik Jones is a racer. We know he gets the most out of that car as he possibly can. I think a good benchmark for Erik Jones is top 20 in points this year. I don't see him winning a race here in the 43 car, even though I'd really like to see him win one. Could be here at Daytona. He's starting off good, P4 tomorrow. William Byron and Chris Buescher roll off 5th and 6th for the 500, and I think the expectation for all Hendrick Motorsports is contend for a championship, and what I mean by that is make the Final Four. This is, with the playoff format, you know you're going to Phoenix. If a Penske car is going, you know the deck's stacked against you, but that's no excuse. You're driving the number 24 car. You brought back the flames this year on that sharp-looking Chevrolet. It's not a Camaro anymore. It just says Chevrolet on the back. And I think William Byron just needs to start off strong this year and keep the momentum. He's got a knack, kind of like his teammate Alex Bowman, for starting a year strong and then sort of fading later. But I think Byron's expectation is to make it to the Final Four. Meanwhile, Chris Buescher over at RFK is somebody that I really feel can win multiple races this year. And that's my expectation for the driver in the number 17. He is ascending. I don't quite know what the future of Brad Keselowski is going to be at Roush as he gets older. But Buescher's entering his prime. And I think this could be a really big year for Roush if Buescher steps into that key player that Roush thinks he is. And my expectation for Buescher, win 2 races this year. Win multiple races. Go back to that form that you were a few years ago where you were forced to be reckoned with. Make the playoffs and make a deep playoff run on the back of a couple wins for the 2025 season. Taking a look here at, well, one half of row 4 that is very surprising. Ty Dillon in the Grizzly number 10 Chevrolet for Colleague Racing side by side with Denny Hamlin. Ty Dillon, I think, simple explanation for him is that he finishes races. A lot of people don't like the Dillon brothers because of their name, but to be quite frank, I do love Ty Dillon. I love what he has done. He has totally shrugged off the Austin Dillon character arc and has tried to do things his own way. And for the most part, he takes care of his equipment. That's what Colleague needs right now. And I think that's the expectation for Ty this year. Finish all the races. There's not a lot of speed expectations. I mean, he was good at the Clash. He rolled off really fast at Daytona. I don't see that speed from Colleague going the whole year. But Ty sure thinks though, and I'm rooting for him because this is a guy that's building this team his own way. Great pickup from Colleague as somebody that can go out and just simply finish all the races. Side by side with him is Denny Hamlin, who, remind me if you've seen this before, Joe Gibbs racer entering the latter part of his career gets a sudden crew chief swap and a major sponsorship loss. Oh yeah, that was Kyle Busch. Where's Kyle Busch now? Not Joe Gibbs Racing. The writing is on the wall for Denny Hamlin. He's got to perform this year or else. I don't know his contract situation with Joe Gibbs. There's been a lot of banter, a lot of talk, how he said he's want to finish his career at Joe Gibbs, but so did Kyle Busch. So I got a feeling that expectations for Denny Hamlin is win so much so that Gibbs can't get rid of you. Put the ball back in his court. Force him to find sponsorship. Force him to commit to Denny Hamlin until he's ready to hang it up. If not, we could be seeing this superstar looking for a new ride in a year or two. Next row, row 5, is Ross Chastain and Joey Logano. I think Rick Hendrick ruined Ross Chastain. Rick was very blunt in how he has talked about the driving habits of Ross Chastain just over a year and a half ago. And ever since then, Ross has lost the edge. It's sort of sad. I really loved how Ross Chastain used to race. He just took and took and took. And if it ruffled the feathers of other guys, then so be it. Ever since then, Ross has retracted himself a bit on the racetrack, and the results show for it. He doesn't finish where he runs because he gets abused often. My expectation for Ross Chastain, return to form. Be the driver who got yourself into the Cup Series. Be hungry. Be the guy that takes. And I think that could correspond into 2 or 3 wins for the number 1 Trackhouse machine in 2025. Beside him is Joey Logano. And to be quite frank, I don't really care about Joey Logano this year. It's an odd number year. He's not going to do anything, as history has proven. Even number years, Joey Logano wins the championship. Odd number years, he falls into obscurity. I think Logano could win a race or two, but it doesn't really matter. He's won his championship. He's done his job. I think simply the expectation for Joey Logano this year is to make a round of 8 push and see where the chips may fall. After all, he didn't do a lot last year to win the championship. He probably doesn't have to do a lot this year to win one either. Tyler Reddick and Corey LaJoie rolling off in row 6 for the 500. Look, Tyler Reddick's expectation now is to bridge the gap from 2311 to the big boys. He is the poster child of 2311. What does that mean? It's not simply good enough to win the regular season championship, but rather go after the whole dang thing. He had a heroic season last year, getting the regular season championship, and then ultimately falling flat on his face when the playoffs came around. He had a dramatic end to his playoffs, but come Phoenix, he was a no-show. I think this is going to be the year that Tyler Reddick pushes himself into the Final Four and plays tough with the big boys up front this season. Beside him is the part-timer Corey LaJoie and that 01 Rick Ware Racing Take 5 oil change Ford. Don't wreck. That's it. That's my expectation for Corey LaJoie. Don't become another meme this year with the worst team in NASCAR racing a part-time schedule at tracks that you will pick. If you've talked so much trash to the lower series, don't wreck. Prove you belong. Finish the races. To be fair, most of the time when he's out there in that 01 machine, he's going to be in the back anyway. Times are different at Daytona. Mind your P's and Q's, Corey, or trouble may find you on the internet through many, many memes. Row 7 is AJ Allmendinger and Todd Gilliland. AJ coming back to Colleague as the good little soldier, going full-time once again. I think expectations for Allmendinger is simply make the playoffs. There's many road courses this season. Get it done. That's it. All you got to do is win one, and then you're in. Harrison Burton did it. You can do it too. AJ's got a lot of experience behind the wheel, and he drives very hard for a team that he clearly loves. He wouldn't be there racing full-time again if he didn't. That 16 needs to win a road course in order to make the playoffs. I expect him to be a big mover and shaker at Mexico City this season. Side by side with him is a driver in a new place taking over a ride his dad drove, Todd Gilliland, in the 34 Front Row Motorsports Ford. My expectations for Todd is battle for a playoff spot. I don't think a win is coming for the 34 this year, but typically every year there's a mix of drivers down towards the end that don't have a win that are fighting for a playoff spot. If I can see him in that graphic of 5 drivers or so battling for that playoff spot, I think it'll be a good year for the 34. And I think Todd would take that this season, being the new front runner at Front Row. Row 8, Austin Dillon in the number 3 Bass Pro Shops Chevrolet, side by side with Ryan Blaney out of Penske, racing that Menards 12 Ford. I think for Austin Dillon, expectations is simply this: don't or don't wreck enough where the retirement rumors come back. How many years in a row did we get used to just a few years ago seeing the 3 in the playoffs? I think Austin Dillon made the playoffs 5 of 6 years or 6 of 7 years or something ridiculous like that. It wasn't atypical to see the 3 in the playoffs. The last few years, a totally different story. Just manage your equipment. Don't make a fool out of yourself. Starve off the retirement rumors. Maybe take a page out of your brother's book and finish the races. And we'll see where the cards fall for you here in 2025. Side by side with Ryan Blaney. Ryan Blaney's expectation, win a championship. I think this is pretty clear. This could be the year that Ryan Blaney just goes off. And I felt like we've been saying that for the last few years, but I think we're still here. He is the star that NASCAR needs. A legacy name, a great personality, and ultimately a wheelman that isn't afraid to show his emotions. This is the driver that the sport desperately needs. And I'm a Chase Elliott fan. But Ryan's got the personality to carry the sport. If he can become a champion, watch out. Superstardom may be knocking on the door for Ryan Blaney. Row 9 features my man Chase Elliott and John Hunter Nemechek in the 9 and 42 rides for Daytona. My expectations for Chase is the same as all Hendrick drivers. Make the Final 4. You're in top tier equipment. There's no excuses. Chase did a really good job last year with an average finish that was highest in NASCAR, but with that, he needs to have winning speed. Towards the end of last season, he led laps, he was up front. I'm curious to see if that momentum carries over into this year. It certainly did at the Clash. I don't think it will at Daytona. I'm anxious to see when we get away from these super speedway kind of races and move on to something else, if that 9 has the front runner speed that I hope he does for this season. And again, John Hunter Nemechek, Legacy Motor Club. It's so hard to predict for this team. My expectations for John Hunter, finish the races. Top 25 in points should be the expectation for John Hunter. Remember, his story was he went to Cup too early, went back down into the lower series, gained some credibility, and made his way back into the Cup series. I really want to see that 42 do well. And I think a great year for Legacy Motor Club is if that 42 finishes in the top 25, along with his teammate Eric Jones. The feel-good story of Daytona is Justin Allgaier in the 40, side by side with Christopher Bell. I love this story out of JRM. My expectations for him, just for this race, win the dang thing. Dale Jr.'s been very blunt in saying that this is going to be his year when it comes to this one race. He said, I'm going to go lobby to Greg Ives and tell him that we're going to go to the front. I'd rather lose this race with the cautions not falling our way, running our hardest, than chilling in 25th, getting caught in a big one. This could be really exciting from Junior Motorsports at Daytona. With Christopher Bell, expectations kind of the same as Ryan Blaney. Enter your superstardom arc and go win a championship. I think Christopher Bell is ready to take the reins and be a dominant driver in this sport. So, let's see it out of what I would consider the front runner for Joe Gibbs. Row 11 features Kyle Busch and Kyle Larson, the drivers of the 8 and 5 Chevrolets. Kyle Busch is someone that I feel needs to get back on track in order to preserve a little bit of his legacy. He's teetering on the Jimmy Johnson arc, where the fall off was steep and very apparent. Just win, baby. I don't care if you lock your way in the playoffs. I don't care if it happens when you're not in the playoffs and you still win a race. Just get back to winning. This is my expectation for Kyle Busch this year. Kyle Larson, same thing as all the Hendrick drivers. Win the championship. Make the Final Four and figure out Phoenix. This is something that these drivers desperately need to figure out to close the gap to Penske. Ty Gibbs and Riley Herbst rolling off in row 12. My expectation for Ty Gibbs is win your way into the playoffs. This guy has a ton of talent, and we know why he's racing, because his granddaddy owns the team. He will always be assured sponsorship, and he'll always be assured a ride. There's no pressure. Just let your talent talk and win a race. Make your way into the playoffs and see how the rest of the season rolls out. This kid can be something special. He's not like all those other silver spoon kids out there. He's got some real driver talent to him. I'm really excited to see if Ty Gibbs can go get a win this year and lock his way into the playoffs. With Riley Herbst, 23-11, third entry. Finish the races. I'm not a big believer in Riley Herbst, but I am a big believer in 23-11. So something's got to give. If he's got the talent behind him, I just want to see him learn and get better throughout the entire season. 25th and 26th is Michael McDowell in a new place at Spire Motorsports in the 71 Chevrolet, and Shane Van Gisbergen making his full-time Cup debut in the Trackhouse Racing number 88. Michael McDowell, get a win. Go to the playoffs and get to the round of 8. Spire's got that Gainbridge money. Surely they can find some more speed this year. They got to be on the up and up this season in order to prove that they are serious contenders in this sport. Michael McDowell's aging like fine wine out there, and I think he's the exact talent they need to go out and get a win, punch your way into the playoffs, and put some good races together to survive the first round. Shane Van Gisbergen, make the playoffs. Sorry. Expectations are high for this rookie simply because there are so many road courses on this schedule. Kind of like AJ Allmendinger. There's no excuses. You gotta win one of those in order to make the playoffs. And whatever happens, happens. I think Trackhouse would be thrilled if the 88 won a road course, made his way into the playoffs, and just continued to learn on the ovals. He's not gonna wow anybody out there on your big mile-and-a-half speedways, but when you turn left and right, that 88 will surely be up front. Ryan Preece driving the number 60 for RFK, flanked by Cody Ware in the 51, starting 27th and 28th. My expectations for Ryan Preece, prove you belong. I think that 60 machine is going to be, again, in that sort of cluster of drivers that should be contending for a playoff spot on points. They all can't be up there, but I don't think the 60's got race-winning speed. He's got to learn how to drive in the best equipment that he has ever had at the Cup Series level. If I can see him in that graphic contending for a playoff spot, I think that would be a big win for Ryan Preece this year. With Cody Ware. Look, everybody trashes Cody Ware because, well, his daddy's name's on the company. And it's no secret. They had the joy, and he picked his boy to go race the 51 full-time. But if you look at the numbers, he didn't do half bad. In his last handful of races within the end of the season last year, Cody Ware averaged a finish of 21st. That could be amazing for him. Top 30 in points for Cody Ware with a steady improvement with, and here's my asterisks for Cody Ware, an appearance at a super speedway race. Be in the top 10. Have your name on that list of drivers that first appears at the end of the race. Do it one time. Prove you are not a joke. Prove that Rick Ware's improving. You'll gain my respect this season. Rolling off 29th and 30th is Josh Berry, driving for the Wood Brothers, flanked by Cole Custer in the 41 Haas Factory team. Ford. Two Fords here in this row. with very similar expectations. I love Josh Berry, and I love his fit with the Wood brothers. But to be quite frank, that 21 machine has not been competitive in a long, long time. For Berry, I think a great successful season would be finish top 20 in points. Be one of those drivers in that graphic fighting for a playoff spot. Prove you belong. He's got the talent. I think he's going to take that 21 places. It hasn't been in a long time, but it will be inconsistent. He's still trying to learn. He's got a lot of talent, especially on the short tracks. He just needs to figure it out, well, everywhere else. And the Wood brothers need to do him justice by preparing hard every week. Cole Custer proved that this wasn't a mistake. I think Cole is the logical fit for Haas as they downsize from Stewart Haas Racing, going into a one chartered team for this year. His dad writes the checks, right? So, I think it's logical that Custer gets in. Prove this wasn't a mistake. Don't wreck equipment. Finish top 30 in points. Put together one immaculate race. And I think it would be a good season for Cole. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. and Noah Gragson roll off 31st and 32nd. Hayek Motorsports. Sounds like the sound that Goofy makes when he laughs in the Sunny D Chevrolet. Ricky, win a plate race. I don't care when it happens. This is pretty much the expectations for Stenhouse every year. If he wins a plate race, the year's successful. If he doesn't, we don't think about him till he wrecks. Win a plate race, I think all skepticism goes away. Hayek Motorsports is happy, and he's in a place where he feels like his job's secure. They like him there. I really don't have any problems with Ricky Stenhouse Jr. other than the fact that he's just a field filler at this point. And Noah Gragson driving the number 4 for Front Row Motorsports. Totally not the 4 font from Stewart Haas. It's a completely different number. It's a completely different font. I promise you. My expectations for Gragson? Well, I want him to be in the graphic. Yes. Those who are fighting for a playoff spot on points. Just on the outside looking in. This kid's got a ton of talent. But don't race over your head this year. And I think he can take that 4 machine really far because Front Row trending upward. I really feel that this could be a sneaky good team this year. Similarly, we have the driver starting 33rd, Carson Hocevar in the 77 Spire Motorsports Chevrolet, flanked by Brad Keselowski. My expectations for Carson, finish top 20 in points. He's a little more inconsistent than Noah is. His top-end talent is higher, but his lack of, well, everything else is way more apparent. I really love what Carson Hocevar can be. It's kind of like a Diet Mountain Dew version of Ross Chastain. But I don't think this is the year he figures it out. He's got a new team. He's just going to try to assimilate well with them. Be in the mix. Try to figure it out. With Brad in the number 6, rolling off 34th, my hope for him this year, win a race. I don't care where it happens. You can make the playoffs or not. It don't matter to me. As a fan of the number 6 car, I always want to see him do well. But I think the prime Brad Keselowski days are long, long gone. And so I'll take a win anywhere we find one. Watch out for Darlington. That's a driver's racetrack, and Brad has proven he can do well there. He might be able to sneak up from 34th here at Daytona and snag one too. It's never won here either. Justin Haley returns to Spire, starting 35th, and 36th is Daniel Suarez. My expectation for Justin Haley, do better in this car than what you did at Rick Ware. Some may say this is a lateral move, but I say this is a mistake. I thought that Rick Ware was trending in a really good direction with Haley at the helm. He put together a lot of great runs with that team, impressed us with top 20s and top 15s, and yet, well, here he is, starting 35th for the Daytona 500. do better with this team than what you would have if you would have stayed at Rick Ware. Daniel Suarez, make Trackhouse defend your ride. Look, you won Atlanta last year, and then you proceeded to do nothing for the rest of the year. It's no secret. Trackhouse has a pipeline of talent ready to bump you out. Similarly to Denny Hamlin's story, force your team to keep you. I think he can do it, but ultimately, it's up to him to decide. Rolling off 37th is Zane Smith, and 38th would be Alex Bowman. Zane Smith, expectations, finished all the races. He started last year very, very rocky. It seemed like every race we were seeing Zane Smith wreck. But I think somewhere in the back half of last season, he figured something out with the next-gen car. Put together a lot of great, solid runs, given his equipment. This year, build on that. Don't have such a crummy start, and maybe a top 25 points finish is waiting for you. Alex Bowman, same expectation. Even though he's rolling off 38th for the 500, you can't get away from the fact you drive for Hendrick Motorsports. Make the Final Four. Win a championship. That's my expectation for all Hendrick Motorsports drivers as they continue to try to chase down the dominance of Team Penske. Martin Truex Jr. makes it in on speed in the 56 Tricon Garage Bass Pro Shop Toyota. He'll roll off 39th, flanked by 7-time Jimmy Johnson in the 84, starting 39th and 40th. MTJ, my expectation for this race, very similar to Justin Allgaier. Win the Daytona 500. You're not here for any other reason. Just win it. And I think it'd be really special to see that 56 in victory lane. Similarly to Jimmy Johnson, my expectation for him, win the Daytona 500 or push one of your boys to victory lane. Kind of looked like he was all in on doing that when he was a lap down in the duel. I wouldn't be surprised if something unfortunate happened to Jimmy in that 84 ride and he became, well, an ally to one of his drivers and pushed them to a win. It'd be really cool. It'd be an awesome story and would change the trajectory of Legacy Motor Club. And the last driver rolling off for the Daytona 500 is Helio Castroneves, using the driver of influence provisional, or whatever they're calling it, to make his way into the Daytona 500. Finish the race. He doesn't have any season-long expectations, so I'm just giving him one for today. Finish the race. A lot of drivers don't even like that you're in the field. You didn't earn your way here. You didn't race your way in. So, prove them wrong. Show that you belong in a stock car. You got doinked around all today in the ARCA race. Stay out of trouble tomorrow at Daytona. Ultimately, my prediction for the Daytona 500, I will give you the guy that I think is going to win this race and a driver that I see is a dark horse for the Daytona 500. My dark horse will be the man rolling off 4th, and that will be Eric Jones. How cool of a story would it be for him to get robbed in his duel and then turn around and win the thing at Daytona? That would completely change Legacy Motor Club's year. It could change the entire trajectory of the team in general. And we know Eric Jones is a wheelman. He's very good at these super speedway races. I could see him doing some great things in the 43 tomorrow afternoon. And ultimately, my winner from this race is going to be a driver that I think is looking to start the year off incredibly strong, prove the doubters wrong, and show that last year's playoff slump isn't something that is affecting him now. Tyler Reddick in the 45 machine for 2311 is my pick to win the Daytona 500. What do you think down in the comments about the yearly expectations, the starting grid for the 500, and what I think when it comes to the winner of the Great American Race? All right, we've talked all there is to talk about when it comes to the Daytona 500. I know I will be watching tomorrow. Who do you think is going to wind up winning the greatest of races we have to look forward to in the calendar year. Let me know down in the comments. If you like what you see here, please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll talk to you again about Daytona here real soon. Take care, everybody.